Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Himanshu Tyagi. I will be taking this course on heat and mass transfer. Today's lecture will be conduction heat transfer and there will be several parts to it. So, today is part 1. Before I start this lecture, let me do a brief recap of what we have done in our previous lecture. So, the previous lecture was titled Introduction and there we studied the different modes of heat transfer starting with conduction, convection and radiative heat transfer. And we looked at some solved examples, for instance, like it is shown over here. What is the typical rate of heat transfer across plane wall? Then we tried to estimate the rate at which radiative energy is being emitted by the sun. Now, let us formally start today's lecture, which is titled Conduction Heat Transfer. So, we will look into the details of conduction heat transfer in this particular lecture. We will try to see what are the physics behind it, what are the mechanisms of conduction, how does the property of thermal conductivity vary with temperature, and we will look at several case studies. So, let us start with the topic which is mentioned over here, that what are the brief types of conduction heat transfer. So, roughly speaking, we can divide conduction heat transfer into two cases. The first one is the steady case and the second one is the transient case. We will start first with the steady case. So, this is what we will look at today, and if we want to make things slightly more complicated, in each of these two cases we can have 1 dimension, 2 dimension and 3 dimension heat transfer, and similarly the same thing can happen in transient case, 1D, 2D and 3D. For both steady as well as transient phenomena, the one dimensional case is the simplest one to see. So, we will go ahead and look at the one dimensional case for steady state today, and later on we will look at the 1D case for transient analysis, and the remaining one we will look at briefly under the multi-dimensional analysis. So, let us say if we are having heat transfer taking place through a particular medium, in general we can go ahead and write it in a vector form, that the rate of heat transfer Q dot is equal to Q dot x I plus Q dot y j plus Q dot z k. And each of these components further, like we have written this equation over here on the top left, we can go ahead and define for each of these three cases. So, Q dot x becomes equal to minus K A del T by del x, Q dot y is equals to minus K A del T by del y, and there is a dot over here. So, Q dot z is equals to minus K A del T by del z. So, mathematically these are the equations by which we can solve whether it is steady state or transient case or even 1 dimension, 2 dimension or 3 dimension. Before we go into the detail, let us go ahead and answer a question, that what exactly is meant by conduction heat transfer and what do we mean when there is a temperature difference and heat flow takes across it. So, let us illustrate with the help of a simple example. Let us say I have a body over here and I have another body over here. This is at some temperature T1. Let me put some number over here, 100 degrees just for illustration, and this is temperature T2, this is at 0 degree centigrade. Because these bodies are kept far apart from one another, let us say apart from their distance between them is L, and if there is vacuum in between and we are neglecting radiative heat transfer for the moment, then we can say that no heat transfer will take place from one body to another. Now, let us say we take some sort of a rod or a beam made of, let us say, a metallic object, and we connect these two bodies together. So, this particular beam is of length L, its cross sectional area is A, and then we will ask a question to ourselves that what happens after this particular scenario. Now, obviously, heat will start flowing from the high temperature zone all the way over here, and it will eventually reach the low temperature zone. If we are maintaining these two bodies constantly at 100 and 0 degree centigrade, in that particular case we will have to keep on giving heat over here, and that heat we can remove out from over here, and both these values are actually equal. And let us say we do this and we find out that both these values are equal and their value turns out to be some number, let us say 200 watts. Now, as engineers, we are designed and trained to think that what are the parameters that we can change in order to vary this number. For instance, is there a way I can make it 400 watt? If I want to increase it, if it is in my interest to increase it, can I increase it to even 4000 watt? Or to go on the other extreme, can I reduce it? Let us say it is in my interest to make it as low as possible. Can I make it 2 watt? Can I make it 2 milliwatt? In other words, what are the parameters and the property of this particular beam which determine the value of Q dot? So, I can write again that expression over here, that for pure conduction for one dimension, we can write this equation which reduces to this equation over here, which means I can vary any of these parameters. For instance, I can double the value of K, which is the thermal conductivity, and the value of Q will also double. I can double the value of A, which is the cross sectional area, by making the beam thicker and thicker, and then again the rate of heat transfer will increase. I can double the temperature difference between these two bodies. For instance, instead of having 100 to 0 degree temperature difference, if I make it 200 degree and 0 degree, then again Q dot will double. And the last one is, if I reduce the length by half, let us say originally the length was 10 meters and then I suddenly reduce it to 5 meters. In that case also my Q dot will increase. So, I think all other things make sense. What we want to know now is what exactly is this parameter K, this thermal conductivity, which has the units watts per meters Kelvin, and this is a material property. For instance, if I am using a copper beam, then the K value will be different. If I am using a rubber beam, then the K value is different. If I am using a steel beam, or in extreme cases I can use a liquid or even air. So, all these materials, solids, liquid, gases, crystals, metals, non-metals, metal oxides, insulators, they have different values of K. But even before answering that question, that what does K depend on, if you go back and try to ask one question, why does heat even travel from higher temperature to lower temperature? What exactly is heat? What exactly is thermal energy which is being transported from this hot reservoir to the cold reservoir? So, the details are given in physics, but I can summarize it that heat is a property of any material. It could be solid, liquid or gas, which gives the motion to the atoms and molecules. So, if it is a solid, just like this pen or stylus I am holding in my hand, no matter how much I heat it, these atoms and molecules remain at the same position, but they are jiggling around. So, if the temperature is higher, they jiggle much more. If the temperature is lower, they jiggle little less. So, the same thing I can do with water. If I can freeze it, make it ice, then almost all the particles have become stationary, but at the same point they are jiggling. So, if we look at it with very magnified microscope, we can see that those atoms, while sitting at the same place, they can't move around because they are solids, they are rigidly held. So, they can jiggle at that location. The only temperature at which they will stop jiggling is 0 Kelvin. So, once we cool it down to 0 Kelvin absolute temperature, then all atoms and molecules stop jiggling. The same thing happens with liquids. Liquids, of course, have more flexibility, they have given more flexibility to their atoms and molecules, which can move around a little bit, but then they have to carry around the little neighbors around with them. So, they are pulled and tugged a little bit by the surrounding molecules which are present around them, and gases give much more freedom to atoms and molecules. So, if there are two atoms and molecules adjacent to one another, they can just go past one another without feeling much interactive force with one. So, in all these cases, whether it is a solid, whether it is a liquid or it is a gas, in all these cases the jiggling motion, or in the case of gases the kinetic energy, the high velocity at which it moves, that represents the temperature scale. So, if we go back to the slide, what we are saying over here is that the energy of jiggling, if I represent it with this red scribble over here, so that is actually being imparted without any atom or molecule. So, though no molecule or atom is moving in this direction, there is no solid movement, but only the vibrations at very small scale, they are actually transmitted. In the case of metals, it is also free electrons. So, they are the ones which actually carry all this thermal energy, or what we call as engineers the heat transfer, which is taking place over here, and that will continuously take place from the 100-degree this particular system on the left side to the 0-degree system on the right hand side over here. So, I think that gives us some idea that what is the physics behind the thermal conductivity. Now, I would like to go and explain this particular equation, which is the Fourier equation over here on the top left, with the help of an electrical analogy, because I think that is something which we have all studied in our high school. So, what I am going to talk about is voltage, current and resistance, and then correlate it with the heat conduction equation. So, I will begin with a fresh slide over here. So, just like in the previous case, we have two bodies of different temperature. In the case of electrical analogy, I can make a body over here having voltage V1 and then another body over here having voltage V2. And essentially, if we remember, the voltage difference is the one which is actually of importance to us. So, I can give some imaginary values over here. So, on the left side the voltage is 10 volts and on the right hand side the voltage is 0 volts. So, I have just chosen these numbers arbitrarily. Now, what I want to do is, I want to make the current flow from the higher voltage to the lower voltage. So, I want to introduce a term of current I. In order to do that, because right now they are separated by air or vacuum, so no electrical current is flowing right now, but if I connect it with some sort of electrical conductor, it could again be a copper wire or copper beam or some metallic long wire having particular cross sectional area A and the length is L. So, I think this is something that we recognize immediately. I can write the relationship for the current which will be flowing in this particular wire as follows. So, I turns out to be delta V divided by R, or I can write over here, this is the electrical resistance, and I can also write the units. I is amperes, V is in volts, and R is in terms of omega. Because I have the voltage difference in the form of V1 and V2, I can further write this expression as the following. So, I know the voltage 1 is higher, so I will take the difference V1 minus V2 divided by R electrical. Now, what does this resistance value R depend on? So, if you remember our high school, we used to remember that there is something called the resistivity, which in turn depends on the length and the area of that particular wire. So, R is of course the resistance, and this is the electrical resistance that we are talking about. So, I will write electrical over here. L is the length of the wire, A is the cross section, of the wire, and this parameter rho is known as the resistivity, and its units are ohms multiplied by meter. So, we are starting to get some picture, some idea about the physics behind this particular problem. What I mean by that is that the material properties that earlier we were looking for in the case of heat transfer. So, remember, all this exercise is whatever we are doing is essentially to understand that the heat transfer is taking place between 100-degree body. If we go back to the previous slide, between the 100-degree body and the 0-degree body. So, we want to figure out what is the physics of that heat transfer taking place, how does it change, how do things depend on K as well as length L and the cross sectional area A. And the interesting thing that we will see over here is, in the case of the electrical resistance as well, the same analogies we are getting. So, we are getting length L, area A, and this R is the electrical resistance. Now, where does the role of the material come in? For instance, somebody may ask me a question that instead of using copper wire while keeping the same length and the cross sectional area, now I am giving it some color. So, I am coloring this particular wire. If instead of copper I make it of some less conducting material, even of some insulator like wood or rubber, naturally the value of I will go down. So, let us look at that very briefly. So, that material characteristic, whether it is copper or wood or rubber, it actually is coming through that parameter resistivity. So, let us look at some typical values of resistivity. So, this is resistivity rho. So, if I draw a table over here, so copper, is it expected to have very high resistivity or low resistivity? So, we can even guess, because we know copper is a very good conductor, which means its resistance is going to be very, very low, which means for a given material its resistivity value is going to be very, very less. So, I have over here a table in which I think 4 or 5 material properties are known. So, these I have noted down from a reference, and just for illustration purposes I am putting it over here. So, if you look at copper, I think it has one of the lowest values of resistivity. So, this is 10 to the power minus 8. Then we have nichrome, slightly higher. Then of course, wood is going to be very, very large. So, you just see the magnitude amount has changed drastically. Then rubber becomes 10 to the power 13. So, I am just writing the order of magnitude, and air is 10 to the power 14. So, of course, this is one of the best conducting materials along with silver and gold and aluminum. These are all materials which can be used for electrical conducting purposes, and interestingly they are all also very good thermal conductors. So, let us do a very small example and try and see that the case of copper, what typical values do we come out with. So, I will try to do the calculation on this page itself for the sake of continuity. So, I am taking the same example from the left hand side, and then I am putting in some numerical values. So, what are the values that I am going to put? So, I am going to assume that the length of that wire is about 10 meters. The cross sectional area I am going to assume is very small. So, it is a 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter wire, which gives me cross section of 1 millimeter square, which I can convert into SI units as 10 to the power minus 6 meter square. I will rewrite it. Now, based on this, okay, so let us go back on the slide and see that we were trying to calculate the value of resistance for copper, which is given by rho L by A, and the value of resistivity for copper is already known to us. So, I can plug in these values over here, and I have done that calculation. So, I will present the result to you. It turns out to be, so if you ask me, this is a very low value of the resistance of copper wire. So, keeping in mind that the length of the copper wire is around 10 meters, it is very the cross section is very small, but because primarily its resistivity value is very low, that is why its overall resistance value is also very low. Now, let us try and do a thought experiment, which in reality nobody would ever do, that let us see what happens if I replace this particular wire with the same dimension wire made of wood or rubber. The voltage I will keep the same. So, V1 would still remain 10 volt, V2 will remain 0 volt, and let me do a quick calculation over here that what would happen in the case of wood, because that resistivity value I already have over here. If we do that calculation, I have done that already. So, I will present that particular result. So, I will just replace the value of rho from over here, and what we get is about 10 raised to the power 10 ohms, which is really huge. So, you have to believe me that nobody is going to use this kind of a system. Now, what we originally wanted to do was to figure out what is the value of the current which is going to flow through this particular voltage drop. So, let us do that for both the cases. So, in both cases I equals to delta V by R. So, if you do the math over here, delta V is known to us as 10 volts. So, it turns out to be approximately 60 amperes. And in the case of wood, we do the same thing, and it turns out to be minus 10 to the power minus 9 amperes. So, let us try and analyze what is the result of this particular thought experiment. So, few things are actually very clear. As you can see, the first thing is that copper is well known electrical conductor and wood is a well known insulator, which means even if wood is present between a voltage drop of about 10 volts, large amount of it or even small amount of it, just by the scale of this particular currents that we can compare over here, 60 amperes compared to 10 to the power minus 9 amperes, we can clearly see that the material property can play a very big role in figuring out how the electrical field is transmitted in the terms of current through that particular wire. Now, the same analogy we will go back to our previous case where we had two thermal reservoirs, one of 100 degree centigrade and the other one of 0 degree centigrade. Now, let us try and see what are the properties of that particular rod which connects these two thermal reservoirs and how does it actually help us figure out how much conduction will take place. So, let me redraw that case very quickly over here. So, we have a reservoir on the left side, we have a reservoir on the right hand side. So, this one is at a higher temperature 100 degrees, this is at a lower temperature 0 degrees, and I am going to connect them with a body over here. So, I am going to assume that this thing is in very good thermal contact on the left side as well as in very good thermal contact on the right hand side. In addition to that, I am going to assume that it is very well insulated from all sides wherever it is exposed to air. So, we do not want any heat loss to take place from the top and bottom of this particular beam or rod. All the heat transfer that we want is it should happen in one dimension and it should go like this. So, in this particular case, we are not interested in calculating the current flowing, we are interested in calculating the value of rate of heat transfer which is taking place across this particular system. And I will also put the dimensions over here. So, like in the last case, this length is L, and the cross section of the beam which I can put over here, that cross sectional area is A. So, again I can very quickly write that this expression will turn out to be something like this. Now, let us focus our attention on this material property K, because everything else is almost kind of fixed. T1 is known to us at 100 degrees, T2 is at 0 degrees, the length is known to us as 10 meters, the cross sectional area I will keep the same as in the previous example. So, I will keep it 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, and now we will try and see if I change the material property K, what happens. So, let me draw a table over here just to illustrate this point. So, what I am going to do is fill in the value of thermal conductivity of some common materials. So, this is thermal conductivity, units is going to be watts per meter Kelvin, and I will fill in the various materials over here. So, if I ask the audience what is the material which is having the highest known thermal conductivity, probably the answer will come is it is diamond. Now, these days we must keep in mind that there are a lot of nanotechnology based enhancements. So, a lot of people are claiming that carbon nanotubes have actually surpassed the thermal conductivity of diamond, and that is actually true. So, this value is very large. Let me go back and erase this thing. Then some of the common materials like metals, and if we look around us, we observe lot of air conditioners are present. So, if you look at the evaporator section and the condenser section of air conditioners, some of the well reputed brands, they actually advertise that all that thing is made of copper, and the reason for that is they want to claim that they are using very high thermal conductivity material. Of course, they can't dream of using diamond for creating the evaporator and condensers, because they will go out of business very soon, but copper is actually very useful. The next one is aluminum, and this is about 237. Then there is iron. So, I am just giving some specific materials. Then we have water, wood, rubber, and then finally air. This one I am trying to write over here, air, and air has very low value, 0. So, I will write that value over here, 0.026. So, as we can see, we start off with very high values around 2000, and then we can go to very low values of thermal conductivity, which directly gives us an idea that in our case, if we try to put rods of different materials, whether it is made of hypothetically of diamond or copper or iron or even some insulator like wood or rubber, we can drastically alter the rate at which heat transfer will take place across it. As a matter of fact, if we put vacuum across this over here and we neglect the radiative heat transfer, we can even make the whole thing insulated in such a way that no heat flow takes place across this. So, let us do very quick calculation just for one or two materials. So, I will again start with copper, and I will assume the same dimensions as I had assumed earlier, that the length is 10 meters, the cross sectional area is 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, which is 1 millimeter square, which is 10 power minus 6 meter square. Thermal conductivity of copper I have, of course, from here. So, let us quickly calculate that how much conduction heat transfer is taking place. So, that we can get K, which is 401 multiplied by area delta T divided by the length, which is 10 meters. And if we do this arithmetic over here, I think what we will get is something like 4 into 10 to the power minus 3 watts. So, essentially we will get a very small number. So, I can write it in short form as 4 milliwatts. So, if we ask ourselves a question, because we are trying to understand what exactly is happening over there, the two bodies which are very, very hot, they are connected with a very good thermal conductor like copper in this particular case, but only 4 milliwatts of heat transfer is taking place across it. So, we should ask ourselves that what are the parameters which are actually leading to this very small value. So, just to play around a little bit more, let us try and do one or two small deviations over here, and the first deviation we will do is we will play around with the geometry. So, let us try and do something. So, I will use a colored pen so that I think it is pretty clear. So, let us say we try to reduce the length 10 times, which means this original length was 10 meter, let me try to make it 1 meter, and I will try to increase the width and the breadth of the beam by 100 times. So, this one I am making 100 millimeters, or in other words 10 centimeter, and the same thing I am making over here 10 centimeter. Everything else I am keeping the same. So, what am I actually doing is I am allowing a larger passage for the heat transfer to take place. So, earlier that passage was very small, it was 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter. So, it was a very thin beam. Now, I have increased it, I have made it almost 10 centimeter on the height and 10 centimeter on the width. The other thing I have done is that length earlier, which was 10 meters, I have reduced it 10 times and made it 1 meter. So, this is going to significantly improve the amount of heat transfer taking place over here by a order of magnitude. So, I think if we do that calculation, it turns out that that value is about 400 watts, or I can write 0.4 kilowatt. So, we have seen that in that particular case, if the length is less, the area is large, we are starting to get very high rates of heat transfer. Very quickly, let us try and do it for another material. So, in this particular case, let me pick another color, and I will do it very quickly over here, and let me try and do it for wood, which is another case where intentionally we would not want to do it, but just for a hypothetical case, let us try and do that. So, wood thermal conductivity is already given over here. So, its value is 0.17 watts per meter square meter Kelvin, and if you do that calculation, which I will leave for you to do on your own. So, that value turns out to be 0.17 watts. So, if I try and compare these two numbers together, so just by changing the material property, and if you go back at the look at the physics behind it, why do metals have higher thermal conductivity compared to wood or insulators? So, the answer comes back again to that jiggling of those atoms and molecules, because metals and crystals have lot of vibration mode as well as free electrons, which can be transported, energy can be transported more freely, whereas the same form of energy transport is highly restricted in the case of insulators, in the case of rubbers and wood, and more or less the same thing in liquids and for gases as well. So, it is no surprise to see that there is such a drastic change in the value of heat transfer rate between these two materials. Let us take a pause for the okay. With this comparison that we have seen over here, we have seen that there is major contribution of the material property. We have looked at the mechanisms which actually determine how heat is transported. The same mechanisms determine the thermal conductivity of the material. Now, let us try and apply this particular knowledge for the case of one dimensional heat transfer across a plane wall, because these examples I had just given to illustrate that we, from a conceptual point of view, we can understand that from a hot reservoir to a cold reservoir through a particular passage, how does the heat transfer. Now, as an engineering application, let us try and see 2 or 3 cases, and all these cases will be the simplest one. So, we are not talking about transient heat transfer right now, we are talking about the first case, steady state heat transfer, and even within steady state We are not talking about the 2D and 3D. So, we are just sticking to the one dimensional case. So that we can just build up on simple concepts first. So, we have steady state heat conduction. So, I will use this abbreviation HC for heat conduction, and we are talking about the one dimensional case for a plane wall. And just to keep this equation in mind, I will write this equation up over here, that we are just dealing with the one dimension in the x direction over here. So, let me draw a simple plane wall over here. I know the length or the thickness of this plane wall is L. So, this is a vertical plane wall that I have drawn. I am going to mark the x axis over here. Now, if I know that on the left side, left surface of the wall is maintained at some temperature T1, the right surface of the wall is maintained at a lower temperature T2. So, I am going to show this point lower over here, and let me put some illustrative numbers over here. So, these are just for example's sake, they do not have any physical meaning right now, and in order to fulfill these numbers over here, I am just going to assume that the cross sectional area A is 1 meter square. The thickness of the wall L is also 1 meter, and for the time being, whatever material is inside over here, its thermal conductivity I am going to assume as 1 watt per meter Kelvin, which is actually a very good approximation for brick. So, I can write K brick over here, because typical brick has thermal conductivity close to 1 watts per meter Kelvin. Now, if it is a steady state heat transfer condition, so we can just join these 2 points together to illustrate the temperature profile in this particular wall. So, what does this green line represent is the following. If we look at the middle point over here, because this is a straight line, so this middle point we can immediately say represents the temperature, which is a mean temperature between 40 and 20 degrees. The second thing, we can clearly see that heat transfer must be taking place from the higher temperature to the lower temperature, again due to the same mechanisms of that atoms and molecules jiggling together. So, on the left side the jiggle is more because the temperature is much higher, 40 degrees. So, they are trying to motivate the slower molecules to also move vibrate, and that effect is actually reducing. So, it goes from higher 40 degree to lower 20 degree over here, and in this particular form the heat transfer is taking place. So, Q dot conduction is taking place. So, if you do a quick mathematics on this one, because the numbers are very straightforward and simple, K is 1, A is 1, delta T is 20 degree, and the thickness is also 1. So, it just turns out to be in this particular case that because of the temperature difference of 20 degree, the heat transfer which is taking place across this wall of 1 meter square cross section is simply 20 watts, which is a very small number, but it is okay for our illustration. Interesting thing that we will learn very soon is that it is a positive quantity, and it is positive because both the axis direction as well as the direction of heat transfer, because of having higher temperature on the left side, lower temperature on the right side, they are both aligned. So, it is a positive heat transfer. So, we have a plus 20 watt of heat transfer taking place over here. Now, let us try and play around with this problem by the following way. Let us change certain parameters inside over here. So, the first parameter I would like to change, while keeping everything else is almost same, is let us see what happens when the thickness of this particular wall becomes half, which means the point over here we are still maintaining at 40 degree, the point on the right hand side we are still maintaining at 20 degree. So, I will write over here T1 is equals to 40 degrees and T2 is also equals to, sorry, T2 is 20 degrees as earlier, and the geometry and the material remain the same, which means the area is again 1 meter square, the thickness thickness is half and the material remains same as brick. So, if I again draw that particular temperature profile over here, so if my drawing is correct, so if we compare the slope of the first temperature profile which is given on the top with the temperature profile of this new wall, which is the half thickness wall. So, if my drawing is very good, then I think we all can see that this particular slope has slightly increased. So, if you look at the earlier slope, it was slightly less, and then once the thickness of the wall has decreased, then this slope has actually gone up. Now, slope has a very good significance in the first equation, the top equation over here. What is that significance? So, this slope is represented by del T by del x. So, if the slope has almost doubled, what does that tell us about the rate of heat transfer through this particular wall? So, if I calculate the value of Q dot conduction over here, so I can use the same equation on the top. So, everything remains the same, it is just the denominator L has been divided by 2, which means it should actually increase 2 times. So, this case the heat transfer becomes 40 watts. So, if you look at the same thing from an electrical analogy, it is like that copper wire that we had used earlier, now we are using half the length. So, the resistance of the copper wire goes down by half. In this particular case, we will learn later on that we will have something called the thermal resistance. So, while we are reducing the thickness of the wall by half, we are actually reducing the thermal resistance by half. So, let us continue in this direction and try and see what are the different cases that we can think of. So, I will label them. This is the first case 1, then this was case 2. Now, I am on case 3, which is same as case 1, but I just reverse the 2 temperatures. So, over here T1 becomes 20 degrees, which is low, and over here T2 becomes 40 degrees. Everything else remains the same. So, the thickness of the wall is again L, material is again brick, the area is 1 meter square. So, let me first draw the temperature profile across over here. So, now the slope will look like this. So, if you remember from our mathematics, the sign of the slope has actually changed. If you remember case 1, which was having slope in this direction, and case 3, the magnitude is the same, but the slope direction has changed. And that thing again is evident in this equation over here, the top left corner, and numerically we will still get 20 watts in this particular case. But if I have to show in what direction is the heat flowing, how will I show that? So, I think heat always flows from higher temperature to lower temperature. So, now the arrow which I am going to highlight with the red color over here is actually in the negative x direction, which means when I am writing 20 watts, I have to go and put a minus sign over here. So, that is what I will do. So, the rate of heat transfer can actually be negative as well. It just depends on the direction in which we have defined x axis. Let us continue. Let us have another case. So, this will be case 4 over here. I am going to talk about a lot of cases because this will help with some basic understanding of one dimensional heat transfer. What if both the temperatures become same? This is 40 degrees over here, 40 degrees over here. Temperature profile will be simple horizontal line. So, what does my original equation tell me? Del T by del x, the gradient has become 0. So, we can clearly write Q dot is 0 over here. Then we can move on, because the temperature everywhere is the same. Now, I will make a few interesting questions over here. Now, let us say I will move on to case 5. Now, I am making the same wall, but somebody convinces me and tells me that don't build the whole wall of the same material, you build half of the wall with brick and the other half with some other material, maybe concrete or cement or some other thing. And for some reason I have believed that person. So, the way I will draw it over here is this. Oops, okay. So, this half is, let us say, brick, and this half is some other material. And the important thing of this other material is that its thermal conductivity is much higher. So, this I will use the subscript K2. So, brick I will say is K1. So, that is the thermal conductivity in this zone on the left side. Oops. And the thermal conductivity of this other material is 4 times that of brick. So, I will write it as 4 watts per meter Kelvin. So, remember, for brick our thermal conductivity was given over here as 1 watts per meter Kelvin. Now, let us try and think keeping the same conditions on the left and right hand side. So, I will redraw that over here. The left hand side temperature is 40 degree and right hand side we are still maintaining as 20 degrees, which means all the cases case 1, case 2, case 3 and case 5 we have maintained both the temperature numbers just for illustration purposes. There is nothing special in 40 and 20, but just to present this example I am showing like that. So, I want to propose to you that how will we know the temperature profile in this sort of a composite or a complex wall? How do we go about trying to understand, will it remain like a slope, a straight line, will it become a curve, will it be some sort of a different type of a line? So, let us try and analyze. That is a very interesting question. So, one way is I can still connect these two temperature profile with a straight line. I think I did not draw it nicely, so I will try and draw it again. So, is this the answer over here? If so, it has to satisfy the original equation over here on the left hand side. So, because this is our governing equation, the top left side equation is the governing equation, it cannot be violated. So, if we go back and look at the brick and the second material, now what we will see after some analysis that there is some issue going on. And what is the issue? Over here the continuity says that whatever heat is being transferred from this direction, that has to continue going over here. And that is important now to understand that electrical analogy. Let me draw it on the right hand side, that let us say instead of having a full copper wire, let us say half of the wire was copper and the other half was made of steel, just as a illustration point. Now, whatever the amperage of current which is flowing through this, it has to remain the same. It cannot be that it is 7 ampere in copper, then after coming into steel it becomes 2 amperes, because then the Kirchhoff law will ask us what happened to the 5 amperes. So, the continuity of current, the same thing will happen over here, the continuity of the rate of heat transfer, unless some energy is being absorbed or dissipated, which is not in this particular case, which means we have to write that Q dot 1 on the left side over here and Q dot 2 over here, they have to be the same. Now, this is the hint from where we will try and figure out that what exact slope should be over here. So, one way I will try to explain it in this way, that if you look at the equation that K A del T by del X. So, if the K value goes higher, A remains same for both the halves, which means if K value increases 4 times, perhaps my del T del X should reduce by 4 times. And what does del T by del X signify? It signifies the slope. And in the extreme case, if you look in this slide over here, this slope can also become 0 as was shown in case 4 over here. So, slope 0 means it is a horizontal line. So, if I am reducing the slope, it has to come toward the horizontal, which means where the thermal conductivity is higher 4 times in this particular case, there my slope has to be lower 4 times, which means it has to be very low slope. So, what I am trying to draw is that this has to be a lower slope, I hope you can see it, and then this has to be a higher slope. So, essentially we will have 2 straight lines, both of them are straight lines, but their slopes will be different. This will be a lower slope, this corresponds to material 2, and this is the higher slope which corresponds to material 1. And this is a very interesting phenomena that we are seeing, that the material which is having very high thermal conductivity, in this case relatively speaking, that 1 watts per meter Kelvin or 4 watts per meter Kelvin, the material which is having high thermal conductivity will have lower gradient of temperature compared to the material which is having lower thermal conductivity. This also gives us some hint. If we go back to the slide and we try and see that under what conditions would this case 4 take place, because it is showing that throughout the wall the temperature is almost constant. So, it can take place in various conditions. One way it can take place is if the thermal conductivity of the wall is very high, because the thermal conductivity of wall is so high, let us say astronomically high, 2000, 4000 or something, then the gradient has to be inverse. So, it has to be very, very low, almost close to 0. Now, we try and go and solve this particular problem. So, due to slightly lack of time, I won't solve the whole thing here, but I will give the results over here. So, it so happens that this temperature over here turns out to be equal to 24 degrees centigrade, and that is very interesting to see, because if we look at this temperature change is about 4 degrees centigrade, which is 24 minus 20, and this temperature change from 40 to 24 is about 16 degrees centigrade. So, if you take the ratio of 16 degrees and 4 degrees, we get the ratio 4, which has to be equal to the ratio of K2 by K1, and that is actually true. So, K2 by K1 is also coming out to be, my pen is not working very well over here, but I will write it slowly. So, it's both are coming out to be 4. I hope you can see that. It is a very interesting phenomena that we have seen over here. So, with the help of these 5 cases, I hope some understanding will improve. Let me continue in this direction. Few minutes are remaining. Let me try and see if I can show 1 or 2 very interesting cases. So, what happens, engineers always like to face some challenges. So, one challenge I want to throw to the engineers, let us see if we can answer this question. So, if we have a wall in which very funny looking temperature profile is there. So, let us say from here to here temperature profile like this, then like this, then like this, then suddenly goes like this, and then suddenly like this. So, my drawing is not very good. So, please excuse that. I intended to draw 2 parallel lines over here. So, it is a plane wall. So, please believe it is a plane wall, but I will label these points as A, B, C, D, E and F. So, what is the funny thing which is happening in this wall? So, can we try and think what could be the answer for this? And the hint was there on the previous slide. So, all these are straight lines individually, but they are having different slopes. So, if you go back to the slide, what I am going to do is I am just going to partition this wall. So, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different sections of the wall. So, the section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4 and section 5. And all these straight lines actually give us some indication also. If I want to ask a question, again a challenge to engineers, that which of these 5 sections is having the highest thermal conductivity. So, again we can answer using the logic which we have used in the previous slide, which was that perhaps the section in which the temperature gradient is lowest, which is shown as I think section 5 over here, this has the lowest temperature gradient, which means K5 must be the highest, and this is a good logic which works over here, which means we can even predict the inverse. So, which of these materials out of these 5 sections, which is the one which is having the lowest thermal conductivity? So, the answer would be reverse, that wherever the temperature gradient is the highest. So, let us go and look over here. So, it appears over here that the temperature gradient is highest perhaps in section 4, which means K4 is the lowest. Let me draw 1 or 2 more interesting temperature profiles. So, now this is another challenge, that in what case our temperature profile both are same on both sides. So, let us say 40 degree here and 40 degree here, 20 degree here and 20 degree here, but in the middle, this is the middle line. So, it looks like a parabola. So, how can this happen? Question mark. So, I have forgotten the numbers. I think case 5 we have looked at earlier. This is case 6, this is case 7. Maybe I will draw another case 8, which is similar to case 7, but with slightly different numbers. So, here on the left side we have 30 degree, here we have 20 degree on the right side, and somewhere over here is 40 degrees. So, again it is a parabola, but it is kind of a skewed parabola. So, this is case 8. Then let me draw case 9, which is very interesting. It starts off like a normal. So, this is the temperature profile over here. So, let me put some numbers here. It is 40 degree and here it is 20 degree. So, one thing I forgot to do, let me do it with the violet color pen, that in all these cases, let me start with case 6. The rate of heat transfer, the direction of that I am showing over here. So, in case 6, as we can see, it is from the left hand to the right hand side. What happens in case 7? It is a tricky case, and this is something that we will figure out in the next lecture, but I just wanted to give a glimpse of what we are going to do very soon. So, if I have to tackle it, the way I will look at it is that in the middle the temperature is highest, 40 degree. So, I know heat flows from high to low temperature. So, I will draw it like this. So, then there is a Q dot over here, but on the other side the same thing is happening, which means there will be another Q dot. So, this will be negative and this will be positive, which means it is going to be a very interesting case. So, same thing over here, this thing is the difference is it is not in the middle in case 8, but here again there will be a Q dot on the left side, Q dot on the right side. Oops. Now, case 9 is very interesting because the way it has been drawn is that this angle is 90 degree. So, this line starts out, the temperature profile starts out perpendicular to the wall. So, if the wall is like this, so the temperature profile is starting perpendicular and then it goes taper down over here. Now, it is very interesting, again temperature values give me a hint that heat transfer is taking place over here. And we will very soon figure out that we will also get a hint. This is something we will cover in the future classes, that we will figure out this is actually an insulating wall. So, it is a adiabatic condition that we are looking at. Of course, to explain many of these cases, these 3 cases rather, 7, 8 and 9, we will have to introduce a term called the energy generation term. And this we are going to do in the next lecture, but it is very interesting, and maybe I have 1 minute. So, I just want, because I prepared a few more interesting curves, I just wanted to share it with all of you. Under what condition we will have this funny looking curve like this? So, again heat transfer we know is taking place in this direction. Now, under what condition will it be a straight line up till here and then curve over here? Then, what condition will it be straight line on both sides, but going in opposite direction? So, some heat is going over here, some heat is going over here, and I think this is the last one, from here to here. And then you see there is a sudden dip in temperature and then it goes from here to here. So, if I put some numbers in this case, this is the most interesting case, 34 degrees, this is 32 degrees and this is 20 degrees. So, if I were studying it for the first time, I would definitely think of a question that what is exactly going on over here. Here if we talk in terms of mathematics, what is the value of dt by dx? It is almost, it is a 90 degree line. So, dt by dx is very high, almost infinity. So, with that let me wrap up this particular lecture. Before I do that, I will just present very briefly what we have studied over here. These are the tables. So, these are we will be available online, we will upload it, and I have already written them by hand. So, today the summary is that we have looked at the heat conduction equation. We have looked at electrical analogy. we have understood the concept of thermal conductivity and the physics behind it, and we looked at some examples of 1D heat conduction equation for the plane wall. Once we are back in the next lecture, we will continue with the heat transfer, the conduction heat transfer, and we will talk about those topics which we had just looked at towards the end. So, we will look at things like energy generation. Then there was one case of variable thermal conductivity, and then that funny looking curve where the temperature gradient seemed to be very high. We will also formally define the heat conduction equation. So, we will try and derive it formally, first for one dimension and then try and extend it for 2D and 3 dimensions. With that, I thank everyone and we will meet again next time. Thank you.